I started to just tell people that I was going to be the first person in history to ever run about 5,000 miles across the entire Sahara Desert. A year and a half later, I had a partnership with Matt Damon, and he was executive producing and narrating the film, and Hans Zimmer had signed on to do the score. And I'm in West Africa at the shore, surrounded by camera crew and a bunch of people who actually believe that I know what the hell I'm doing.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
Who am I chatting with? Who are you? I think you know who I am, but who knows? Maybe you don't.
I do indeed. So my name is Charlie Engle.
Charlie Engle. And indeed. Charlie Engle, who is Charlie Engle?
Wow. That's a great question. I didn't expect to have to answer such a difficult one right out of the gate. But I'm a just turned 60-year-old adventure athlete with 30 years clean and sober. A partnership with Deepak Chopra in the addiction recovery space. A lot of years of speaking on big stages, and Simon & Schuster published my memoir a few years back, and I've done a lot of stupid shit basically so that I could tell some good stories.
I think we've all done a lot of stupid shit in our lives. I've certainly done a lot. Tell me one of the stupidest things you've ever done.
I was working as a TV producer for a show called Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I was this senior producer on that show years back. And at the time, I was running ultra adventure races around the world. I was probably 10 or 12 years clean and sober. And so as I like to say, it's still very much in the discovery phase of who the hell I am and what my purpose was. I came up with the brilliant idea that I should run across the entire Sahara Desert. A friend of mine had done a race called the Marathon des Sables a couple of years earlier, which you're probably familiar with. And it's about 150 miles across this chunk of the Sahara. And I just kind of posited out loud, wonder if anybody's ever run like across the entire Sahara. And I started to just tell people that I was going to be the first person in history to ever run about 5,000 miles across the entire Sahara Desert with absolutely no proof, very little ability, and certainly no money to speak of. And a year and a half later, I had a partnership with Matt Damon, and he was executive producing and narrating the film. And I had an Academy Award-winning director, and Hans Zimmer had signed on to do the score, and I'm in West Africa in Senegal at the shore, surrounded by camera crew, which you know very well, and a bunch of people who actually believe that I know what the hell I'm doing. And and all I can think is in that moment, I've suckered all of these people out here to the Sahara, and we're all going to die. And, the expedition began, and I survived it and actually ran 2 marathons a day for 111 consecutive days across the Sahara Desert, and became the first person in history, along with 2 teammates that I dragged along with me, to cross the Sahara. So I would rank that maybe as it's not stupid. It's just, again, I look at your career, and I'm sure you relate very well. People always ask you, why are you doing that? Why are you going to do that? And I've learned through the years that I have no idea what the answer is. Ask me when I'm finished, and then I'll tell you what the purpose behind it was. But hell, if I already knew why I was going to do it, then I probably would just skip it.
Do you know what? I would say, you said, I asked you the question, the stupidest thing. But the reality is, what you just explained to me was stupidly brilliant. Like,
thank you.
Well, the brilliant piece being the most important word, because sometimes when you put yourself out there on that type of level, you transcend the normal human experience and you bring back with you into your life that transcendence.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. I mean, my view is we get so attached to outcomes. You know, I have children who are in their late 20s and early 30s. And despite growing up with me with very little direction, quite frankly, they're so attached to what they're going to get at the end of the path, the road, the job, the relationship, that it very often stops them from ever even starting it. And, you know, it's pretty frustrating for me because I think you and I both know the good stuff is it all happens once you just make the commitment to do the thing. And if you already knew what you were going to get out of it and what the result was and all of that, then what would be the point?
What were some of the most profound moments on this trip around the Sahara, across the Sahara? Like what did you take back with you?
I try to be just transparent as possible. The first two things that popped into my head were, number one, I crossed Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Libya, and Egypt all on foot, and six Muslim countries, two Islamic republics, a place I've traveled a lot, but very, still a foreign place to me. And I had this beautiful crew of people who were Berbers, native Tuaregs, the people of the Sahara. And I watched them for 4 months. Not only did they take care of me and make sure I didn't die out there, I had to do the running, but, I needed support. But also, I watched them do their thing. They prayed 5 times a day. They went on about their life. They were loving, caring, beautiful people. And I don't want to categorize that as surprising, because to me, I didn't know what to expect, but I expected it to be beautiful. I didn't expect it to be scary or any of the things that, most people imagine who haven't traveled very much. The second part was the power of going into any village on the planet. I hate the term third world countries, but it says kind of what a lot of these places are. They don't have the same advantages or disadvantages sometimes that we have. But to go into a place on foot like Timbuktu in Mali, I mean, I'm filthy. I got a backpack on. I'm not in a Range Rover or a Toyota Land Cruiser. So nobody's coming at me with their hand out. They're programmed to behave a certain way based on how people approach them. You walk into some crazy corner of the planet where they don't know you're coming, and you just are your truest, honest, dirty, normal self. The curiosity of the children, we had kids who would run 10K out into the desert with us. They speak Arabic. We're like, we don't speak the same language. We're not giving them anything. We're just laughing and having a great time. They finally wave and just turn around and go back. And it was that reminder that the universe often delivers gifts like that, at your lowest moments. Because needless to say, running 50 miles a day and in a pretty hostile environment, environmentally, was there were a lot of low points. And so I would say those are a couple good examples of surprises, things that I certainly did not expect.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm always asked, what did you learn on your trips? And of course, I learned many things, but the most profound thing I learned was that we're all the same. At the base of our humanity, we are all the same. And when kindness really is just like a portal into human connection. That's where I see it. And what you just described with those kids running 10 kilometers with you and you feeling them and them feeling you, is that it is you are and they are sharing each other's humanity.
Yeah. I mean, it's so beautifully said. And it is that if you smile, and I mean, look, I'm a writer. I hate cliches, but I'm 30 years clean and sober. I'm filled with so many friggin' cliches from one day at a time to all the rest of them that we know. But there's a reason cliches catch on. There's usually a nugget of wisdom, buried in those things. And what I tell people that I actually coach, and I don't mean like, I don't really tell people like how to run a marathon fast or anything else, but I try to impart a little wisdom about why they might want to take on a challenge, be it running a marathon or trekking across Ethiopia. If you can simply put a smile on your face, wave at people, be proactively, I don't even like to use the word kind, because I'm not really being kind, I'm just being human. I'm not even like, very often people associate kindness with like me giving you something or doing something for you. And it's not necessary that it has to be that. All it has to be is a high five and a smile and an acknowledgement of another human being with eye contact, and kind of just saying, I see you. It was great to be here. I'll see you next time with no expectation.
Goosebumps. Because I see you as ultimately the most important thing, I think, that we can give to another human being. And it happens not with our eyes. It happens with our hearts. And when we see another human being, we validate their existence. And that is the most powerful thing, I think, that we can give anyone.
Man, that is so powerful. So I spend a lot of time in the addiction recovery space talking about, addiction is we all know the problems in our country and around the world. So it's not even, we don't have to talk all the statistics and all of that, but it is very much a disease of the spirit, and of being seen. And so often I think one of my personal heroes is Gabor Mate, and I don't know if you read his stuff, but I got the beautiful opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to have dinner with him, and his new book just came out, and I'm halfway through the book right now. I'm listening to it. I'm coming home and writing and marking up the print copy, but it's all about trauma and the accumulation of trauma in our lives and how that manifests in things like disease and autoimmune diseases and cancer and addiction. And I'm excited that I'm 30 years clean and sober, 60 years old, and I'm learning so much new shit, because I could easily say, I know all this, right? I know all this. I've been, mentoring people and blah, blah, blah for 30 years, and I know it all. And it's so freeing to actually read a chapter in a book and like going, this is like a whole new wonderful way of looking at this issue. And so much of it is about being seen, about being acknowledged, not taking those traumatic past or even current issues and shoving them down into that dark corner, but finding a way to share them openly with somebody else and have somebody else see us so that we can heal.
We need a witness. We need someone to witness everything, or at least something that is going on within us. And if we don't have that witness, I wouldn't go so far as to say there's no hope, but the hope fades pretty fast when someone doesn't feel your pain and see who you are. And I've experienced both sides of that coin, as I'm sure many of us have, in the sense that I've had people who've witnessed me and have changed the foundation of my life. And I've had experiences, many, where I'm just completely unseen. And that's really, I don't know if you know this, but my speech, which I give speeches to, is called I see you. The power of human connection. Right?
Yes.
And I will say something else. Clearly, I don't know you. We've been talking for 15 minutes, but the truth is, I do know you. Like, I know you. Like, you're my friend. We're friends. It's like this, there's an undercurrent of connectivity going on in this conversation that is just beautiful.
Yeah, well, I already want to finish this so we can make a plan to talk again. Which is a good sign. So no, and it's look, it's very true, and I think it is about the approach of we're not the most important people on the planet. I may have gone through a period in my life where I felt like I needed to be. So some of it is I'm older than you, but some of it is seasoning. I think I've come to a place where I recognize my superpower, strange as it is, another cliche, is actually my addictive and obsessive nature. Whereas I spent a ton of time early on in my life trying to unhitch that wagon. Like I thought that addictive nature was going to kill me. And in fact, it is the part of me that makes me good at things. And that the language pathology that is so based in disease, there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed, as opposed to there's something right with you that needs to be revealed, is this like, it's this blossoming woo-woo part of me that's kind of always been there, but I've also been that guy that does things like run across the Sahara Desert. And some of that is just pure determination and even, anger at who knows, fueled like, I'm going to force you to look at me sort of a thing. Like you said a moment ago. And today I feel like I'm slowly evolving into this place where being seen for having done something isn't nearly as important as just being seen or acknowledged for who I am and who I want to be. And there's a big difference in those things, for me, I think over what it used to feel like.
As you're saying that, there's more goosebumps, because I think I have done, in many ways, I have gone out and done things for people to see me. You must see me. How can you not see me if I circumnavigate the world on kindness? It's impossible. You can't. How can you not see me if I go from Alaska to Argentina? How can you not see me if I get a vintage taxi and drive it across America and give free rides to people? It's like forcing myself onto others so that I get seen. And that it's the first time anyone has ever said it in a way that I have fully taken it in and been like, wow, this man has actually done exactly what you used to do. And maybe there's another way. Because I've had I know this isn't a therapy session, but whatever. I've had I've had a moment of the past few years where I haven't really put out that much, because I'm like in a transitional period. Prior to the past 3 years, I put out so much. You must see me. And now I'm like, I don't know if I want that anymore. But then what happens after that? And you seem to have come to a place where you understood what happens after that, right?
I hope so. I mean, that is, I do believe. And look, man, some of it is just turning 60. It caused me to, leading up to it, I do a lot of journaling and writing. And, I'm fortunate to have someone like Deepak Chopra in my life he always has a way of sort of making me, not on purpose, but feel foolish about my egotistical desires. And not, and again, it's okay to have them, but to be driven by them it's just kind of pointless, really. And so I, like you, I do think it's okay look, when I go back to my early days, especially when I got sober, the last thing I wanted to be was normal, right? I still so desperately wanted that edginess that I felt as an addict. Sounds crazy, but like I loved driving through the hood to buy dope and like, not knowing what was going to happen. There was something, there's something magical about driving into a desert or into a jungle or wherever the hell you're going and having absolutely no clue what's going to happen, and understanding that also means potentially dangerous or negative things may happen. And I missed that. When I got sober, I was like, shit, my life is going to be really boring. And of course, it's been anything but for a while, I did need to feed my ego to a certain degree. I mean, I ran like 200 marathons in the first, I don't know how many years, not so many. I ran a lot of marathons because it was like, I loved someone saying to me, oh, I don't even drive my car that far, or whatever crazy thing. Well, then your mom has just run her 10th Boston Marathon, and it's no longer cool to be a marathoner. So I needed then to go run ultramarathons, hundreds or whatever, because a part of me needed to feel different than other people. I wanted at least to look like I was doing something harder and different. And like you just said, and COVID's a piece of it. I also am married to someone who's been dealing with cancer for 6 years, which is she's just it hits me in the face every single day, the importance of being present and of not always seeking that next hit, that next fix. And so in these last years, I haven't done nearly as much. Like if you look at my resume, I haven't gone to many deserts and jungles and mountains the way that I did in previous years. And part of me for a while felt diminished by that. And now, in fact, I feel empowered by it. I have things I am actually going to Everest Base Camp in a couple of weeks, and I'm excited. It's to take another group of people and help them experience something that they've never done before, and getting to sort of see it through their eyes, rather than the need for me to do another friggin' social media post about how cool an experience I just had.
You speak my language, and I'd love to know how getting sober changed your life.
Man, it changed. It saved it, first of all. And I mean, I'm non-traditional. I mean, I did go to rehab. I went to AA meetings. I sort of did all that, but I also ran, 35 marathons in the first few years of my sobriety. And I desperately needed the physical outlet along with the emotional trauma therapy outlet, I mean, look, to me, and it's very, I don't want to go too deep in the rabbit hole of addiction, because it's a really difficult place these days. I don't actually believe that the current industry, if you will, is particularly effective. And I mean, you can look at the stats, and again, it's pretty easy to see that what we're doing isn't necessarily helping people get better. The industry's making a fortune. Jails, prisons, hospitals, therapists, rehabs, pharma. There's a lot of people making a lot of money off of the disease of addiction. And for me, this evolution over 30 years of being like a gung-ho AA'er, this is the only way to go, to now being a proponent of therapeutic psychedelics, to some things that even 5 years ago, I would have said, there's not a chance in hell that I would ever, like, that's for people who aren't willing to work hard enough to figure out their problems. And now I've come to understand I don't mean like hand somebody a bag of mushrooms and say, hey, go figure it out for yourself. I mean with a therapist who is professional and is qualified to do guided therapy and help someone reach that place, because I can't reach it. In all these years, I look at myself as like, I may have discovered 70 or 80% of my stuff, but that other 20 or 30%, it doesn't matter. I could go run 1,000 miles. I could climb Mount Everest. I could go see a therapist for the next 5 years. I'm not getting there. But if there's another way for me to reach that and have some sort of an awakening, or to somehow dive into that past trauma. I'll use a small example. I've come to understand, my mom was 18 when I was born, lifelong college student, theater person, a writer. I was an only child. I grew up in this very adult world. I now have come to understand that I was lovingly neglected, but I spent my whole life defending my mother's mothering, because I thought if I said or thought anything bad about this woman who I worshiped, that somehow I wasn't being genuine, or I wasn't honoring her. She passed a few years ago. And I've now, in these last 5 years, come to understand through a lot of hard work, she wasn't perfect. And that doesn't mean I have to demonize or hate her for it. I can love her even more and accept the fact that she was this, imperfect person. And I think that is the thing that being sober has taught me. Because, the fact of the matter is I spent about 12 years not present in my life. I was just not, I didn't show up for anything. It didn't matter if a grandparent died or somebody's graduating from college or what. I was the guy who never showed up. I never showed up. And I've spent the last 30 years basically with one commitment, and that's to always show up and to be present. And if I do those things, then the world opens up and we'll see what happens from there. And I think, again, that's the thing that people who don't find their way into a sober life, if they need to, if that's what they need to do, that's what they're missing, is the ability to be present, not only for yourself, but for the people in your life.
If anyone is listening who has an addiction, and there's no shame in having an addiction, ultimately, we all have addictions. If anyone is listening who has an addiction and has never shared that with anyone, and has never found help, and has never had the capacity to dig deep and speak their truth, what would you say to them?
Own that shit. I mean, that is the simplest way that I could say it. Is we think, and this is another one of these crazy things that I wish I'd known 20 years ago. I don't want to speak for anyone else. I have gone through my life thinking that other people actually cared about what was going on with me. And I don't mean that like we are basically selfish, self-centered beings who, sure, we might look at what somebody else is doing and pass judgment or have a comment or be supportive or whatever, but then ultimately we pretty much quickly come back to us. What does that mean for us? And so my point of all that is, and these are other stories. I mean, I went to prison as a sober person. I got divorced as a sober person. I've been an imperfect parent I've done a lot of, just because I got sober didn't all of a sudden mean my life was easy, right? Or that I never made a mistake or anything else. The difference is, like, when I get on a stage these days, and I mean, every time when I get on a stage, I have one job, and it's to make a cut right here, dump all this out on stage, all of it, and allow you, the audience, the person listening, to take your own life experience. I never in any talk ever say, you should do it this way, or you should think about it that way, or whatever, because that's not my job. My job is to tell my story, allow you to figure out what parts of my story you relate to. You know, you either are with me or against me. You think I'm an idiot or I'm amazing. It doesn't matter. It's caused an opportunity for you to evaluate yourself a little more. And so I get the point that I'm trying to make here is that all the things that I've done that I'm ashamed of, embarrassed by, or could be, I put it all out there. Nobody cares. Did you ever see the movie 8 Mile with Eminem? You remember that?
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I know.
Well, so I'm going to give you it's a Rocky story, right?
Okay.
It's a rap, except it's rap, which I'm not a rap fan. It's just one of these things that this has always stuck with me. The last scene in this film, Eminem is going up against his arch nemesis in a rap battle. He gets the microphone first. He gets on stage and he says, you know, I live in a trailer with my mom. My best friend had sex with my girlfriend, this and this. And he just went through the litany of things that were all his stuff. And when the other guy got the mic, he literally set it down and walked away. Because again, we think other people are somehow that they are judging us all the time. And maybe they do on some surface level, but ultimately nobody cares about our stuff. We drag that shit around like a anchor that just holds us down and weighs us down in ways that bring shame and embarrassment. And we don't fulfill our own dreams and desires because we think somebody's going to, you know, talk about us. They're not. And if they are, who cares about that person? You know, and so I think that is the lesson of sobriety, is you get a chance to authentically own. I tell jokes on stage. I tell jokes that would be, you know, about smoking crack and I get people rolling, you know, because, okay, it's already understood that it's a terrible situation. Why am I going to make it more terrible by, you know, telling stories that just depress people? And, you know, we all do stupid things. And if we can share those with other people, maybe it'll stop them. It probably won't. They're going to do their own stupid things, but then maybe they'll find a way to laugh about it.
So would you basically say to the kid or the person who's listening, based on what you just said, it's basically share your pain?
Absolutely. Find community, find fellowship, wherever that comes. If you like to run, join a running group. If you like to draw, join an art group. If you like, whatever. It doesn't have to be AA. It doesn't have to be like, but we are social people. I like my alone time going out for a run. And then on the weekends, I love getting together with 50 other people and going for a run. You know, there's so much beauty in fellowship and community. And again, if we just get past the idea that if other people actually knew us, they wouldn't like us, because that's certainly how I felt for a long time. If they really knew me and who I am and these terrible thoughts I have or feelings I have way deep down inside, they wouldn't want anything to do with me. It's just not true. Because the only thing we all share as humans is struggle. None of the rest of it is relatable. Success is unrelatable because it's different for everybody. Struggle pretty much is packaged in the same general way. You know, there's personal struggles, there's work struggles, there's love, there's family, you know, and there, you know, those are always going to be there, and everybody has them, whether you've got, you know, $1 billion or 10.
Or 10 billion or 1 billion.
Or 10. Well, 10 billion solves all your problems.
Yeah,
we all know that.
Yeah.
You know.
So what was the struggle that guided you to get on the wagon? Like, what was
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you the brief story. My first son was born, and I'd been to rehab. I'd been to church. I'd been to a shaman. If I could have found a witch doctor, I would have done that. Like, because I wanted something to take this pain away. I wanted something outside of me to force me to make the right decision because I didn't have the courage to do it for myself at that young age, in my 20s. So at 29, my first son is born. And I'm like, yes, surely I'm a decent enough human being that I can stop using drugs and killing myself and spending all the family's money for my son. I could do it for him. And for about a minute, it worked. But guess what? A couple of months later, nothing happened, no catalyst. I didn't lose my job or have an argument with my wife, but I found myself driving to the worst neighborhood in town. I spent 6 days smoking crack and drinking and killing myself. And that 6-day binge ended with, the police and bullet holes in my car. And I tell this story sometimes. This cop is searching my car and he reaches under throwing out bottles and cans. And, it's a bad situation. I'm handcuffed on the ground watching all this happen. And he pulls out a crack pipe from underneath my seat, the driver's seat. And like any like even remotely rational person would have been thinking, I'm in some serious trouble here. Like, this is bad. And all I can think is in that moment. So that's where that was. Right? Because I spent like 2 days looking for this thing. And it's that sick, crazy thinking is why what happened next is so powerful. I literally had this moment where I said, like the words came from somewhere else, nobody's coming to save you. Your 2-month-old son can't save you. Your boss can't do it. Your wife can't do it. Like, nobody is coming to save you. Lots of people will support you and help you if you genuinely take that first step towards helping yourself. And that is really as simple as saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's find a new way. And when I made that decision, I literally went to a meeting. I went to an A meeting that night, and I've been to lots of meetings before. The old joke was I would go to meetings because, I really wanted to see if I could learn how to control my drinking. It was like, I wasn't there to stop. And I got up the next day and I went for a run. And I did those two things every day for 3 straight years without missing a day. I went to a meeting, I went for a run, and I just slowly started to build this life and these two communities, my running community, my sober community, and a lot of that, there was a lot of crossover too. And, I figured out how to live and just how to be honest and how not to get caught up in, projecting way down the road what's going to happen. And, and it really, it allowed me the opportunity and the space to actually, grow. And I think that's it. Nobody's coming to save you. Almost everybody will help you, but no one can save you until you make that decision for yourself.
You should write a book called Nobody is Coming to Save You.
Yeah, well, you're right. I've never thought of that as the title of the book, but you're absolutely right.
They would buy that book in droves because it's truth. And even though they may not be aware of it on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, it is truth. Nobody is coming to save you.
Yeah, you're making me write notes. So very rude to do during a podcast, but
that's okay. I learned that lesson. I really still haven't learned that lesson, to be honest, but I learned that lesson because I read a book about Mozart. And in it shares the story of Mozart, obviously. And Mozart was the darling of European society when he was a kid. But as he grew older, no one cared about him anymore. And the book said, no one saved Mozart. And what he meant by that was, if no one saved Mozart, why on earth would they save you? Yeah. So nobody is coming to save you. I very much look forward to reading that book. And if you want a little blurb by me, I will give you a blurb. And
count on it.
It's very, very powerful. It's the
count
truth.
on it. Yeah. Well, this is our shot, man. I see all the things that you've done and are still doing, and I know still will do. But it's not just to add to the stack. It's not just to get to the next thing. It evolves into this thing of. It also doesn't always have to have deep meaning. It can just be an exploration of a new place that you've never been. What I love about what you do, and I see it so clearly in your work, is I like to tell people I'm really not I use athletics, running, biking, whatever, as kind of a hook, but it's really just cultural exploration. All I want to do is meet new people and experience new cultures, and I want to talk about them and what they do and how they live. And that gives me perspective on hopefully how I can live better. And I mean, if I can do that one thing for all the rest of my days, it would just be to do that. And today I got to meet you, which is a beautiful thing. So,
and I just got goosebumps because I'm about to say something. It's like this was the perfect conversation for me in this moment. You don't know how perfect it was, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I feel it.
Yeah, and I'll talk for myself here. People often are like, "Oh, you're the kindness guy. You've done this. You've done that. You've done this." But behind that persona, because even though I am kind, but sometimes I'm not because I'm human. But behind that persona is an ocean of truth that, for whatever reason, I don't share. And diving into that ocean of truth without having to circumnavigate the world on kindness, without having to walk across America, without having to do something that inspires people to see me, is where I'm at. And I feel sometimes that I'm struggling. I'm struggling. And to chat with someone that gets it on a level way beyond the mind is a beautiful thing. And this was the whole point of this podcast for me, was simply to connect with, like, I don't know you, but I know you. I know you. I know we talked about this earlier, but now I know you and you know me. And that's it. That's what it's about. It's about that connection. It's about, feeling each other's pain, feeling each other's joys, feeling each other's humanity. And that's priceless. And I think that's part of like what going into nature is about. You go into nature and you kind of go into a different state of consciousness where you feel the nature feels you, you become part of it. And that's what's happened here. You and I have become one for these 43 minutes or whatever. And that's what we're missing. And we try everything to become one, whether it's addiction, whether it's travel, whatever it is. But the true essence of oneness is simply having a conversation with another human being. It's simply going out into the garden and touching a tree. That's literally how simple it is. But we don't see it until we're forced to. And even then, sometimes we don't see it.
Because we're afraid. Because it's easier to fall back on the thing that we already know. You and I I plan on doing more adventures, but I don't need to do them the way that I used to need to do them. I used to need to do them because my identity was so tied up in that I felt like I didn't know who I was if I wasn't planning for the next, run across some big place. And, I still enjoy that part. I've still got some big things that I'd like to do, but the motivation behind them is so much different. And, for you, again, your kindness is readily apparent, whether I can't wait till it's in person. I'm certain it's going to be at some point. But it's a lot of pressure, also you've put on yourself. Heaven forbid you flip somebody off because they took your parking space. I mean, it's like, you're just you're human. You've found a way probably to be kind in a lot of circumstances that other people would have not been. Because that's the hard part. One would think that it's fairly easy to be kind if you're also being given kindness. But as we know, that's not very often the case. The hardest time is to continue to be kind, when you're not getting it in return, or even maybe you're even getting, hostility in the other direction. And I think it is the mark of how we evolve. And the goal isn't perfection, because we would all fall short, if that were the case. Oh, I know you sparked something in me a little while ago that I love, because this is how I hope I live. And from what I see of you, it's how you live. And it's this idea of attraction rather than promotion. And it's the simplest concept out there, but it is this, I trust the fact that if I'm just myself, as well as I'm able to be, as much in contact with myself as I can be, and I share that, the right people are going to be attracted to me. It's attraction rather than the minute I cross the boundary of promoting my lifestyle to you or to anyone else. And I always like to say, if I'm starting a lot of sentences with the words "you should," I've gotten way off track because that's none of my business. If you ask me directly a question, what do you think I should do? That gives me permission to say, well, I'm not sure, but here's an idea. But that's a different thing. When someone asks you, that's different. And I think society these days we've grown into this place where we feel empowered to always tell someone else what we think they should do or what our opinion is. And it's just, I don't know where I was going with that, other than this idea of attraction rather than promotion. You are out there living your life, and you're openly allowing other people to see how you treat someone else in a certain circumstance. You're sharing it openly. And that really does have huge impact, because if nobody has anything to a place to start, a lot of people just don't know how to do it. They don't know how. They're so worried and they're so fearful. It stamps down the kindness right from day one, because they don't know any other way than to go about life feeling like everybody's trying to take something from them or take advantage of them. And what you do is to show people that you don't have to live that way. So
I always tell people, or share with people, that there is another way to live, and you proved it, because 30 years ago you were living a certain way, and now you told us the story of the moment where the policeman found the crack pipe, and then for whatever reason you're like, oh, there's another way to live. And it's such a simple thing, right? But sometimes you have to, not literally, or maybe literally, be punched in the face to realize there is another way to live. May you find it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
anybody can. And I mean, they really can. You just have to get out of your own way most of the time. And and trust that image, that all of these things. I mean, I make my living sometimes from sponsors and from doing talks and whatever else, but I mean, I will say, maybe it is a part of age also, I can't be anything but myself these days, and I can't endorse a product, or I can't get on a stage and say something that I don't believe. I mean, I really just can't. And that's why even in the addiction recovery world, I work with a lot of treatment centers. And I think a couple of them are amazing. There's one up in Maryland called Ashley. I mean, I think they're the best there is out there, but and they get tired of me saying this, their success rates, I think, are better than most, but they're not good. They're not good. They're not good long-term, finding more than like 10% of people who actually are still sober a year after they've gone to rehab is almost impossible. Well, I mean, what other business could you be in where what if your auto mechanic fixed your car 10% of the time, or your favorite restaurant served you a good meal 10% of the time? Like, that wouldn't be okay. But we accept these other things, and it's so much because we're just programmed to think that it's an impossible problem to solve. And so I'm giving myself a hard time these days, Leon, about my own unwillingness to be more provocative and to be more outspoken about certain things. Never read the comments has always been my joke, because, I don't want trolls coming after me, because you say one thing and I still am that insecure person who, if 99 people love me and this one guy is determined to hate me publicly, all my focus goes towards trying to change his mind instead of focusing on the 99 people who love me. It's like, that is still a broken part of me. It's like, get rid of that. Don't even acknowledge it. Focus on where the love is coming from and where the kindness is coming from. But it's still human. I think we all want to be loved and appreciated by everyone. And if you are, it probably means that you're not making much of an impact.
Well, you said about things being impossible. You are proof that things are possible, and you are proof that there is another way to live. And that is a powerful thing. Keep going down this path. Keep plodding along. You and I could chat on this podcast for hours, but I have to. At some point, it has to end, and we will continue chatting, no doubt. But thank you very much for sharing your story. The story of the crack pipe, I will never forget. Sometimes it's a moment. It's one moment. The worst moment ever can become the best moment. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. That was the best hour I've spent in a long time.
Great.
Hello everyone, it's Leon here, aka The Kindness Guy. If you like my videos, which I hope you do, don't forget to press the subscribe button and also to ring the little bell so that the notifications notify you that I have a new video out in the world.